A pleasant afternoon, 3A1. Are you ready to learn new today? Okay, let's start. Our topic for today is all about assessment learning plan. With the learning objectives, at the end of the discussion, the students must have: first, define what is alternative assessment; second, enumerate the characteristic of alternative assessment; and the last, illustrate the importance of alternative assessment. What is alternative assessment? This is a method of evaluation that measures a student's level of proficiency in a subject as opposed to the student's level of knowledge. The overall goal of alternative assessment is to allow students to demonstrate their knowledge and execute tasks. Alternative assessment is also called a performance test or authentic assessment because it is deeply rooted in one's ability to do something by leveraging newly gained knowledge. As part of the assessment, the student will need to perform meaningful tasks that reflect a clear understanding of the teaching and learning objectives. So to better understand what alternative assessment is, let's first look at some of the things alternative assessment is not. First, alternative assessment is not a high-stake or standardized method of evaluating students' knowledge. Second, it is not a replacement for other methods of classroom assessment like formative and summative assessment methods. Third, alternative assessment does not measure the learner's performance. And last, results from alternative assessments are not presented as quantitative or numerical data. Now you know what should not be expected from alternative assessment. It's time to get familiar with the characteristic of alternative assessment. First, alternative assessment is tailored to the specific needs and abilities of individual students. You should not think of it as a one-size-fits-all process. Second, it is an instructor-led assessment process. This means the teacher develops a unique method to measure the student's ability. And the third one is alternative assessment methods are flexible and continuously adaptable. And next is alternative assessment or authentic assessment explore different learning styles and preferences in a bid to measure learners' abilities. And the last characteristic of alternative assessment is alternative assessment methods are seamlessly aligned with the learning goals and objectives of the course, class, or training. Let's move to the examples of alternative assessment. The examples of alternative assessment are portfolio, performance tasks, open test, and collaborative testing. Portfolio. You can ask students to build out a portfolio that demonstrates their knowledge of what has been taught in a class or training. A portfolio is a collection of the different tasks a student has executed in the course of the class or training. If you are handling learners in beginner classes, you can ask them to create a paper portfolio using a notebook. For advanced learners, an online portfolio is the best bet. You can create a simple submission form or form plus to collect links to your students' portfolios easily. Performance test. Since alternative assessment is all about putting knowledge to work, design effective performance tests to help you rate a student's level of skills or knowledge. A performance test requires the learners to execute complex tasks while the instructor observes how they go about them. As an instructor, you should have well-defined scoring criteria to effectively measure each student's ability and arrive at a valid conclusion. Depending on the type of performance test you choose to adapt, you can create a quiz on Form Plus for this purpose. Open test. An open test is a method of assessment that allows learners to refer to course materials as they take on tasks or write tests and examinations. The questions in an open test require the student to provide responses that shows how well they understand the course. Instead of memorizing the content of the course materials, the student has to apply the knowledge in the materials to provide the best response to the stated questions. Collaborative testing. This happens when you put the students in a group and get them to work together on different tasks. Ideally, You should pair them or place the student in small groups of 3 or 4 to get the best result from this exercise. The name suggests collaborative testing empowers the students to brainstorm together, solve challenges, and execute ideas. At the end of each brainstorming session, you can ask your student to make individual submissions or submit collective responses as a group.